Hey, so sound didn't work for the first part of this, so just skip ahead by a little bit if you want to start hearing things. But I'll pretend to be Jenny. Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm introducing John. He's going to talk to you about his game that uses hardware. We are really excited to see it. Here it goes.
Doing so, all this kind of led to an idea. Any of you guys have seen like these old like 70s sci-fi movies? There's always like the computer, right? And it's like a friggin' room, and there's a big console with weird unlabeled buttons that light up, and like who knows what they do, and they're all in like weird grid shapes and that sort of thing. So I want to build one of those, but I want those controls to each kind of feed into a puzzle. And I want these puzzles to form kind of a pyramid scheme of puzzles. So like if I solve this one puzzle, it'll activate this other puzzle, or it'll give me a password that I need to solve this other puzzle, or it'll tell me the goal of this other puzzle. Or some of the controls will just do horrible things to the player, like scream at them or shoot smoke in their face, because I'm sadistic. With the ultimate goal of just making like two lights match. So how do you like physically do this, right? Like this is a big nonsense mess. So my idea is pretty simple. I'll build a bunch of simple little one-off puzzles that are Arduino based. And once I get them working, I can start mounting them in this console, and I can have them controlled by a central unit. Right now I'm thinking Arduino, possibly Raspberry Pi, kind of depends on where I'm at in the process and how much compute I need when it's all done. It's kind of a crazy figured out build as you go type of thing. So I started buying stuff. This is all just nonsense stuff I got on eBay. If you don't care whether stuff works, you can just go and type in like broken avionics, broken electronics, broken mixers. So yeah, mixing board, something called a throwover controller. No idea what this does. Very scary inside. This, I didn't even get a name for this. This is something out of an airplane. This is really scary inside. I can't even figure out how to detach one of these knobs. And then this guy I bought just because it has a big red emergency stop button that I fell in love with and had to have. So the puzzle I'm going to show you guys today that I'm working on right now is like one of the subset puzzles. And the idea is pretty simple. You have a grid of LEDs, RGB LEDs that can be different colors, like whatever, right? And along each axis, you'll have three sliders, right? And based on that slider, you'll have a line, and that line will either be, so if this controls red, this might do, this line is red and everything else has no red, or it could be, it's all red except for this one line. And so you have red, green, blue, you're given a target display, like picture that you're supposed to make, and you try to get the sliders into the correct position in order to kind of do that. So, the logic behind this. Those of you that haven't done Arduino, they run off of C, and all of the code follows like a very simple pattern. There's like a setup function where you declare variables, do one-off things, like whatever needs to happen once when it starts up, and then there's a loop. And it will just keep doing whatever's in that loop over and over and over and over and over again until the Arduino catches fire or you unplug it. So I'm thinking about like, what does that loop need to do? First it needs to read the sliders, right? I need to tell what position those things are in, one by one. Then I need to map them to some kind of scale, because those sliders are continuous, but I'm looking for, the LEDs. I only have like 8 columns of LEDs. So I need to figure out what points along that continuum correspond to each column. Map it to there, set the lights to appropriate colors, and then check for wind condition. So you guys ready to see what I have so far? This is what I built. These are slider potentiometers that came out of that mixing board. I'll get into those in a little bit. And then this is an Arduino Mega. So Arduinos come in a bunch of shapes and sizes. They all kind of run software-wise the same, but they've got slightly different hardware specs. This one's one of the bigger ones. It's got like lots of inputs and outputs and a fair amount of brains. I mostly did it for the inputs and outputs. This thing on top is a shield. So Arduino sells these things called shields for Raspberry Pi. They're hats, but they're basically like pre-made things that you just kind of stick on top and they work. So this is, for prototyping purposes, a NeoPixel board. So NeoPixels are RGB LEDs that Adafruit puts out, and there's a library for handling them as a strand and programming them and sending to them as a strand. So the shield is basically one strand, and it does just like you're reading, right? It goes, top to bottom, left to right, and you tell it each one's numbered, and you say like, I want this one to be this color, this one to be this color, and then you say light show, and it shows whatever you programmed it to do. Right now it's programmed to do this. So this is strand test. This is a simple program that just makes sure your lights work and that you're not doing something really dumb. What I've been working right now, obviously I've been wiring, but the other part is these sliders are a new component to me. So I've been doing a lot of like learning about like how these things work, because right now, if I put up a serial monitor, so one of the things Arduino can do is it can communicate over serial to your computer, and you can have it say stuff and it shows up on like a text box on your screen. And it's useful for debugging, so I can be like, hey, what value is this slider giving me? And right now I can get it to give me values till about here, and then if I move it like a little bit further, the Arduino crashes and I have no idea why. My current operating theory is that it's just like sending all of the power through, and the Arduino can't take it, so it shuts down. But that's kind of why I like building this sort of things. Like, I'm getting this really weird behavior. I don't know what it's doing. And that's kind of like what this game is about, is I want to share that experience of like figuring this thing out. My ultimate goal is to bring this to Pixel Pop, have it on display, have it reset itself at random hour intervals, and just give people masking tape and Sharpies and a big chalkboard to be like, solve the thing. And just kind of like solve it as a conference. So, stuff I've learned so far. Stuff is cheap on eBay if you don't care if it works. It's awesome. I used to buy components one at a time. Now, I just buy broken stuff and take it apart. It's awesome. But part of that, oh, that skipped. Anyway, part of that, I got a hot air gun to take these parts off. Those things are just, like terrifying. Those of you that don't know, like, so electrical components are like soldered in, right? There's like little metal bits that are melted and hold stuff in place. There are a couple of ways to remove components. You can like just cut them off, but that tends to ruin parts. You can do it the hard way with a soldering iron and either a solder sucker or solder wick, and that takes forever. Or you can get a hot air gun, which is like a hot air dryer on crack. And it will just instantly melt solder, and then the parts just fall out. I got one of those for this project. So far, I've gotten it up to 450 degrees Celsius and melted a hole in my table. And then finally, not everything is breadboard compatible. These guys don't fit in my thing, so which was an unexpected problem. So cool. Any questions, thoughts? Awesome. I'm gonna let the actual presentation start.
Not something you see every day. All right. So our first speaker is Matt Raithel from Graphite Lab, which recently released High Jump on PS4 and has also released a whole lot of other games. So
just PC. PS4 maybe later.
Oh.
Just PC.
Just PC. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
A lot of local games being released lately.
Is it on Steam?
It's on Steam. Yeah. January 18th on Steam. Wii U, hopefully we're waiting for approval. So hopefully out on Wii U very soon.
All right.
Yeah. And then we'll talk PS4 and Xbox and all that fun stuff.
I will hand it over to you,
Cool.
Matt.
Just plug in here. Is that?
Yep, just this
that
HDMI
wrong?
here.
Sweet. While I'm doing that, John, how much does a hot air gun cost? Can I ask?
You can get, if all you want is the hot air gun, you can get them for like 40 to 60 bucks from Home Depot. I got a real station.
If you get a quote high
that-
quality one, it's
Yeah,
like thousands.
I got this scary one that's also got like a really nice soldering iron, and that was like $200-300.
Thank you.
But
Cool. So I can get to 400 degrees for like 60 bucks.
they're good for cooking.
See, that's the Steve Jobs way of pitching. You want 500 degrees in your hand? 60 bucks. Very cool. All right. So do I need this? Can I project? Should I use it? Going once, twice? Our Q&A session is going to be very slow if you can't answer that one. Use it? All right, so let me go ahead and present from the beginning, and we'll see how this looks. Looks kind of nice. All right, so I'm Matt Raithel. I'm excited to talk about starting and maintaining an indie business because I've started 3 and I've maintained one of them at this point for about 12 years. It's kind of survived. So I want to chat through this. This presentation, I've got about 20 minutes. So what I've done is I've added more info in the notes section of this PowerPoint. So things that I might not be able to spend a lot of time on here. I'll put this online. You can use this as like a template or kind of a follow-up, and then read through the notes. It'll say things that I'm not saying up here, which hopefully that's helpful to you. But there's my handles on Twitter. If you want to follow and yell at me, please do. I like doing that. And let's get going. So first, who the F is Matt Raithel? Some of you I've met. It's nice to see some new faces. I started game dev back in 2004 for a company called Black Lantern Studios. It was a company that we started right out of school. I like to call it a garage band because literally it started in a garage. And then we moved into kind of more refined office space and so on and so forth. But I started as a 3D artist. I did not start as a business guy at all, in any kind of aspirations for leadership whatsoever. But I started as an artist, and I kind of worked my way up to an art director's position. Started kind of managing a few artists. Then I worked to become a director of art and design, so I managed artists and game designers. And then I added programmers, so I might as well be called the vice president of operations for this little studio that we started in a garage that at that point was getting to be about 50 people. So that's when I started to take on a little bit more of the business role. Started dabbling in Photoshop a little less, Microsoft Excel a little bit more, maybe some QuickBooks here and there, and really had to start understanding how we survived as a company. So it wasn't enough just to make the games and appease some clients who were very hard to appease sometimes. We had to do it while making a profit. We had to do it while keeping our employees paid and keeping benefits going, all that sort of thing. And eventually I became studio head, which the difference between VPO and studio head was, as vice president, I managed 3 of our studios. As studio head, I got to just focus on one, and that really was Graphite Lab. So after kind of running 2 studios for a while, I got to focus on just running Graphite Lab here in my hometown in St. Louis. And I've built my career on doing games for other people. I've done 2 OLPs so far, iJump being one of them. But most of what I've done of the 60 plus games that I've developed and launched are for other people. They're for companies like Nickelodeon, Disney, Hasbro, Warner Brothers, to name a few. So what I'm going to talk about today, from the purposes of starting and maintaining indie business, focuses primarily on that work for hire model. What can you do to run a business using what you know about game development, art, programming, what have you, and help other people make fun, entertaining experiences. And so in doing that, I've done about 30 retail releases. That means work that I've done is landed in a box, burned to a disc or cartridge or cart or whatever you want to call it, and is landed behind the glass somewhere, Walmart, Target, Best Buy, so on and so forth. A lot of that happened at Black Lantern, the first company. Once we started Graphite Lab, we actually focused a little bit more on the growing mobile space. So that means most of what we've done at Graphite Lab, which is about 30 plus titles, have all been digital. eShop, Xbox Live, that sort of thing. So I've kind of lived in both of those spaces. Out of those, only 2 are original properties. We talked about Hive Jump. There was a game called Soul Exodus, which I kind of managed somewhat from afar. What's up, Dan? I haven't seen you in a while. You know all about Soul. Soul Exodus was done by our Austin studio, and I kind of was on our board and kind of reviewing it. Kind of acted more like a client role really with that one, but still was kind of involved in it. So I've managed a lot of different team configurations, a lot of different budgets, and currently my gig is that I'm studio director for Graphite Lab, which we started in 2009. I also teach at Maryville, growing their game design department, which is kind of an indie business in and of itself. You need all these things that I'm going to talk about today to do that as well, so it's nice to see some of that overlap. So who is Graphite Lab? If you haven't heard of us, we're a game development studio here in town. We're over at Westport Plaza, and we have very unique experience developing kids' entertainment brands into apps, games, that sort of thing. So over our 20 years of combined experience, we take everybody's years in the game dev. Maybe if we really extend ourselves and we invest in an app heavily, we might get somewhere at 25, 30%. So we like using that royalty method to give us just a little bit more foundation. So development advances, it's not like game dev story where I go to an interface and I just pluck the highest number. We have to work really, really hard to get those. So having those royalties that are coming in every month based on work that we've already done, that we really don't have to work for again, is a nice way to kind of reinforce Graphite Lab as a studio. And the last one is product sales. So these kind of behave like royalties. They still come in every month. We have to work for them maybe a little bit more. And right now, primarily 100%, I should say, is Hive Jump. It's the only thing we're selling on the store right now. We had a very, very small little, and I'm talking really small, iOS product that we put out there long ago that I think earned like 5 cents. So really this is just Hive Jump. So those 3 things make up our revenue. That's where we get our cash. And we spend that cash on all this fun stuff to the right. We spend it on rent. We spend it on software licensing. We spend it on more software licensing and more software licensing. We spend it on internet connection. We spend it on computers and supplies and other things that are required to keep our company going. But most importantly, and the biggest chunk, is we spend it on people. And I joke down there, but people really are the priceless part of all of this, because no 2 people are quite the same. So here's how we did it. How do we generate cash? If we were starting from nothing, how would we do it again? So those first 3 months, before we really get people involved or anything, is I built up some cash. And when it was Black Lantern, the first company, that cash didn't necessarily come from me, but with Graphite, a lot of that cash had to come from me. And so those first 3 months, you're kind of building that nest egg, getting some runways. You might have heard that expression. A plane needs a runway to take off. A business needs that same cash runway to kind of get up to speed and really kind of take off. So I like 3 months. I like 3s. They're just company numbers for me. But 90 days is just enough time to kind of get going, but it's not so much that you feel like you can take it slow. You gotta really hustle to get that thing rolling fast. And we had some cash of our own. We borrowed some cash from family, things you probably heard from before, but that's kind of our path. Second part is we became a contractor. So when we started Graphite Lab here in St. Louis, we did a lot of work that we didn't talk about because it wasn't what we wanted to do, but we still needed it to pay our bills. Believe it or not, we did a BlackBerry app. I don't know if any of you have that on your resume, but that's a big one. We did some websites. We did custom illustration. If you walk into a few of the subways here in town, they have very nice, like iPad-like touchscreens, nice, beautiful gamey-looking graphics. We did those. We did it because we needed that cash. We needed the cash to know where we wanted to go, and that was an important part. So those first 6 months, we're just kind of getting that, rolling even more, being the contractor, getting that portfolio going, hiring other contractors, getting other people nearby so that we knew we could add them on when we needed to. Next, we started to focus on fewer and fewer things. I remember telling somebody right when we started Graphite Lab all the stuff we do, and they go, shit, are you done? how many more things are you going to offer service-wise? So we did illustrations, we did animations, we could do trailers, we could do games, we could do all that stuff. Man, how much more stuff are you going to do? So we started to kind of widen net, started to hone it in. By the end of that 12th month, we really started kind of developing an identity of Graphite Lab and where we wanted to be. We could say, hey guys, we make games. We usually make games for kids. We can make games for just about anybody. Years and years later, we got a bank involved. That was just to help us more strategic things. But it's really rare to get that involvement very early on unless you have a very specific kind of or a very notable opportunity. You know, if Oprah's going to talk about your game or something, yeah, go talk to a bank, see if you can get some cash. But we didn't until much later. It was very bootstrapped to begin with. And there's also Kickstarter, crowdfunding that's involved. Usually those are for funding projects, not companies. So I put it in there that, yeah, maybe there might be some wacky kind of benefit from Kickstarter or crowdfunding for a company, but it's not very common, not from what we've seen. And our goal through all this at the bottom there is our cash goal is always to generate some sort of a profit. We shoot for 20%, it's just a fun number to have. We hit it sometimes, we don't hit it other times. So we get that cash. Now we got to invest in people, right? We have aspirations for doing this bigger and bigger stuff. We need people to help us get there. So who works at Graphite Lab? Artists, programmers, game designers, QA testers. We have production managers now that kind of help keep all this stuff in order. And we also have interns and others as we're kind of trying to grow our network every year, year after year. But if you're starting a game biz from nothing, I recommend that you focus, just get 3 people. Again, there's that number 3s. Get artist, programmer, game designer. Those 3 disciplines I like having first. Doesn't mean that sound's not important. Doesn't mean the QA is not important. This has just been my path. So I like those 3 things. Network to meet people. I like to hire who I know and respect. We've hired a few people from the outside. We did that a lot in the early days just because we had to grow so fast. Graphite, I've tried to grow very slowly, hiring very specific cultural fits. And I think that's been very beneficial. I certainly have had more fun growing Graphite Lab than I did the other company. And so that means you need to network and meet people. If you're looking to become a part of something like this, or you're looking to grow it yourself, you're already starting by being here at these types of events, so it's a nice start. And the last thing, a little tip and trick here, is I like to bring on new people, hire them for small jobs, and then bring them on to help with other things, kind of like this trial type of approach. Even if you could do it yourself, bring them on. It's nice for them to have a safety net. If you know you could do it yourself, you can program this interface, grab somebody else, have them help, hire them to do it, and that way if it doesn't go well, you can always pick up the pieces, but you have to keep taking those risks if you want to grow a studio with other people. And I like kind of starting small in that regard. So next, a little bit of like how we did it. We did do that founding partnership with Black Lantern. We had all roles represented. With Graphite Lab, it was just me, and I kind of had that experience, so it was kind of all in my head. I'm not much of a programmer, but I had enough of what I needed to do. And then we reached out and started to find people that could wear those hats instead of me. So let's go find a programmer that can help us lead that department. Find artists that could really lead as senior artists in design, same thing. And then once you kind of get those people in place, that's where we got to start kind of that big first project. We kind of did those in reverse with Graphite Lab. We had the project, I had the staff for it, but we didn't keep those people because I think we did those things out of order. So everybody in like those very early days of Graphite Lab aren't around. We kind of got to reboot once we had the project, the right people in place. So I like contracting if you can, and keep it going. My goal with how we hire people is I want to hire people that can help build Graphite to be a place that can operate without me. Sounds weird. Might even sound like I'm trying to phone it in, like I just want to sit back, be absent CEO. No, at first I thought that myself. This is very much, I want to build a creative ecosystem where everybody can have meaningful contributions to the company, and it doesn't have to have me, right? Nobody is going to be, stranded if they don't have Raithel right away. So I'm still planning to participate, but this is kind of my grand vision, is to create that ecosystem so where it can be a place that can operate without me if it had to. I also refer to this as my bus plan. If I get hit by a bus, the company still keeps running. My employees talk about that more a lot. Okay, so you got those people. Now it's time to start building relationships. It's the R in our CPR. Our strongest relationships are DSI Games, Nickelodeon, and Hasbro. I put them in that order because they're kind of like stair steps. You probably have never heard of DSI Games. If you have, I want you to raise your hand right now. Have you? Okay, how do you know DSI Games?
They published like some Hasbro GBA games.
They did.
That were like combinations of a bunch of games.
Yeah, which games were in there?
I have one, but I have Road Rash. They also did Road Rash
I didn't do
for
that one.
GBA.
I didn't do that
But,
one. We did Candyland, Shoots and Ladders, Memory, Payday, Game of Life.
Battleship.
Flip it over, you see Black Lantern. But I list DSI Games, even though they're not in business anymore, they gave us all of our initial contracts. We pounded and hit everybody, trying to get a gig anywhere. We ended up, our very, very first project was THQ. I can tell that story later if you want to hear it. But DSI Games gave us like our repeat business. They had so many licenses and they want to make so many games. We started cranking out GBA after GBA game and DS after DS game with DSI Games. We used that experience to catapult ourselves into Nickelodeon, who had better brands, things that we really wanted to work with. We used that experience and leveraged that later to end up working with Hasbro once they wanted to get on the mobile scene. So all of these relationships, can kind of build on one another. So if you're starting from nothing, how do you start developing those relationships? Build a portfolio through friends, contract. Reach out to your friends, get roles on their projects, build that portfolio. Participate in those game jams, polish them up, and share that with others. If you're looking to get contacts at these companies or Activision or wherever, reach out through BizDev accounts. You can find them, they're not that hard to find. Go to websites, look for the contact page. If it's not there, look for the press page. If it's not there, open up their privacy policy. Sometimes it's down there. Find those email addresses and hit them up and start hitting them up regularly. It's going to take about 9 times before you get a response. Just prepare for it, but be persistent. Once you get those email addresses, you can hit these guys up at conferences. Go to GDC, Activision's going to be there. Go to GDC, Nick's going to be there. Hasbro, all these people are going to be at Game Developers Conference. Casual Connect's another one. I've never been, but I hear everybody goes. If you want to get into these like work for hire relationships. I just got back from the licensing expo, which is where all these brands want to sell you their brand. So Hasbro would be there and like, hey, I want you to license this property from me, pay me some money. And that's fine. You can still go and have seats at those tables and be like, no, I don't want to buy it. But if you want to hire me to make your game, here I am. So you can kind of spin it. It's a little less, the guard's a little bit down at those types of conventions. I've had some success. And then just stay connected. Like I said, 9 times. You got to hit these people over and over and over. They're very busy. And it's not that they don't want to talk to you or that you don't deserve to talk to them. Just everybody's busy, right? Everybody's dealing with fires and stuff. So stay persistent and keep working on it. So, wrong button. So how do we do it? We actually started by building demos of projects that we would want to make. Our very, very, very first project demo was a tycoon game back in 2004. Everybody's making tycoon games. We wanted to make one too. And so our tycoon game was building a nightclub. Nobody built a nightclub before. Well, it was a great idea. So we shot this thing around and we said, hey, would you publish our game? And everybody said no. And eventually THQ said, you know what? We still don't want to publish your game. It's still a no. But if you want to make one of our games, we'll hire you to do it. Sure. All right. Will you make our game afterward? Yeah, maybe. So we made their game, and that's how we got our role started. Same thing happened even with Hasbro when we were trying to get an opportunity there. We had to build our game first. It was just a little card matching game, flip over letters and match letters and stuff. But just having something on the App Store, even if it was simple and easy, gave us that resemblance of experience. We could take that and be like, yeah, we want to make something bigger for you. At least they knew we could make a card game. Some other things we've done to build relationships, try and find some of these people, is I will literally go to GameStop and I will flip over boxes and find out if they're contracting third-party developers. If there's a first playable logo on the back, contractors up north, or WayForward or some of those games, I know that those companies, Konami or whomever, must be contracting third parties, so reach out and try and develop those relationships. Just because somebody else has got the opportunity right now doesn't mean we don't have the option to compete. So we constantly will go out and try and get those other partnerships by trying to find out who's hiring who. And again, this is all under the context of this work for hire. I'll talk about the little IP stuff in a second, but for right now, it's all about building that contract business. And I always think of things in threes as well. If I go and say, want to talk to Konami, it's not just for one game. It's like, could we make 3 different titles with these guys? I don't want it to be a one-off deal. One game is nice, keep the lights on, but I want to grow. So we try to find partners where we could do 3, 4, 5, 10. We've done 15 apps for Hasbro by now. We did probably 12 games for Nickelodeon, and we probably did 12 with DSI. So those are ones you want to look at. Those are the ones that really grow business. You can survive on one job, but you need multiples in this model to really be successful. So our sales process doesn't start with a contract signed, doesn't even start with the end of that first project. We consider a sale complete when we've signed the next project with that company. Yeah.
20 minutes. Just want to let you know.
Where am I at right now? I'm at 20 right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's my last slide. So here's how this goes. Relationship, cash, people, relationship, cash, people. We start at cash, keep cycling it over and over and over, and we kind of build up that tornado. I've got a few things about how we maintain, but I thought if we were going to go into questions, if you didn't have any right away, I was going to play a quick game. So ask your questions, and if it gets quiet, we'll switch to game real quick. Yeah?
So you said in the first 3 months you build up the cash revenue. What are some best ways to build up cash revenue?
You can do anything. You can work anywhere. Just start saving cash. Find out what you need to survive for 3 months. Set that number. And just like you're trying to do a down payment on a house, down payment on a car, set that number of what you need for 3 months. Start saving. It can be you. It can be multiple people. Yeah.
In the 4 to 6 month, in that same section, you were talking about balancing contract work with your actual goal. What advice do you have for maintaining balance where you're not just doing a whole bunch of contract work and losing focus on your overall goal?
So we've done a few things at Graphite Lab because we kind of had this going on when we were doing Hive Jump. And so our goal was to release Hive Jump, but to do it, we needed to create cash. So we kind of had two businesses in one. We had to create cash to reinvest into Hive Jump. So we had a few different techniques. We went through what we called the 2-2-1, which was 2 weeks for clients, 2 weeks for Hive Jump, and then 1 day would sway between them. And that worked for about a month, and then it all became client work. And that's where you saw Hive Jump take a little while longer, and then we come back. We did a few other things where we ended up kind of, splitting individual days. We had, indie Fridays and other things. So my thing is there's might be not one permanent solution that, gets you that silver bullet, but stay persistent and be willing to kind of change it up. Hey, for this month, we're going to try this thing, and maybe we'll get some more time to invest in the thing we're really passionate about. We use that a lot at Graphite as well, fuel for fire. So we had to work on these things to generate enough fuel to start a fire for Hive Jump, what we're really passionate about. So I think the key there isn't necessarily how you do it, but just making sure you don't give up and staying innovative to keep coming up with new ways to stay motivated. Other questions? Yeah.
What was your goal with Hive Jump?
So our goal with Hive Jump really was to connect more with our players. So when you do work for hire, one of the biggest drawbacks is you don't always get to interface with your player base. Especially a lot of the times we're working with like Activision, bigger companies, you do not get to talk to your players. You do not get to respond to reviews. You do not get to respond to questions on forums. You are just a developer, you're kind of way back. And that's one of the drawbacks of that model. So with Hive Jump, we felt like we'd done all these games for other people. We certainly wanted one where we could kind of push ourselves and build a game and an environment that we would be proud of and that we want to play. But kind of, I think for me, the real, visceral part of it was just being able to talk to our players, something that we've made that we could talk to them about. It was also, to help with that third cash point. Having product sales was just another, again, rule of threes. One more way where we kind of supplement cash for the company is by having a product that we could sell ourselves. Yeah.
Do you think doing games for other companies has been a learning experience that has helped your Hive Jump and your personal project become better because of it? Or would you?
Without question. Yeah, absolutely. And we still made a lot of mistakes on Hive Jump. There were a lot of things where, if we were our own client, we would have kicked ourselves in the pants. Like, we still made a lot of mistakes. But there's just so much, there's just so much, whether even just working with each other. We were able to do a bunch of client work, and then we kind of knew each other better than if we had just walked in the room and like, hey, we're gonna make a game together. Nice to meet you. So even if it's just kind of interpersonal stuff, we learned from doing all the other work. Yeah. Yeah.
You guys have mostly done like Nickelodeon and kid-friendly games. Do you think doing Hive Jump will kind of open you up to other kinds of client work, something that you may hope for, or?
Yeah. So believe it or not, even when we talked with some of the kids teams, just like I said last week, was at a conference, talking about all the kids stuff we're doing. The second I started talking about Hive Jump, their eyes perk up and they're like, oh yeah, let's talk about Hive Jump. Can we make Dora a Hive Jump game? No. But you know, right? They get excited. So even if it's just a kind of bond over the fact that we're gamers too, and even though we make games for kids that we might not normally play, we obviously have a very glowing portfolio piece that says, you know, we can make games for others, we make games for ourselves, you know, and so it really has helped. We haven't seen anybody be like, you know, yeah, you guys made Hype Jump, so you get Contra 5. Like, that would be nice, but Konami hasn't returned my phone calls. Other questions?
Can we play this game?
We can play one
Yeah.
to leave time. So, okay, you guys get to pick. I will tell a behind-the-scenes story about either Dora or Pinkie Pie. Dora? Going once? Twice? Sold. Awesome. All right, so when we were doing like the work for hire, we were doing like mostly board games first. So you'd have like chess, checkers, backgammon, Game of Life, all these like existing board games, and we were just porting those into GBA. We kind of got a little bit of a groove there, and in doing that, we caught the attention of Nickelodeon. They're like, hey, would you guys make a Dora game? We're kind of pinched. We have to make this game in 3 months, or else we get a huge fine because the game's got to come out at the same time as the DVD has got to come out at the same time as the press and the retail and all that. So we got to have somebody move really quick, and we had a reputation for moving quick because we were porting board games. So when we were told by our CEO at the time, hey, I think I want to make a Dora game, we all looked around like, are you for real? Really? We're going to make a Dora game? We're all like 22, 23-year-old college kids. Like, what do we know about making a game for Dora the Explorer? But as we eventually said, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And as we kind of developed the game, I really started to develop an appreciation for what makes an engaging experience for like that really early childhood player. We all started having kids, so that became a higher purpose. In the 3 months that we signed Dora, everybody started having kids. It's like weird witchcraft. But in developing that Dora game, not only was our first 1 million unit seller, so we're like, there is a market for this, but we really developed that appreciation for interactivity, no matter the age, no matter the audience, no matter the type, just kind of creativity and interactivity for its own sake. So it was like the best lesson ever. And so that's kind of the secret, is that's kind of what the Pinkie Pie story is too, but I'll have to tell that another time. So that's all I've got. So I'll stick around all night. If you have any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, thanks.
All right, so next up we have Andrew Garrison from Jundrew. And they have released several games on Android, iOS, and Steam. Did I get those right?
I think we have a couple more on there. I at least right.
Awesome. All right.
Not so many.
Hand it to you. Oh.
There was a thing up there, but now it's not.
Oh, this one?
The
The white thing? Oh, yeah, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, my name is Andrew. Jundrew is the name of our company, and we have several games on iOS, Google Play, Steam, all the major platforms. And I've been making games as a hobby for a long time. I started back in high school. I made several games. This is actually my second game that I made. It's called Scorn, and you could have downloaded it from my GeoCities page back in '96, but I think they took it down. So yeah, I knew it back then what I wanted to do. And so I went to college and got a degree in computer science. And when I got out, it actually didn't seem possible to get a job making games. So I went to Boeing and worked on flight simulators for a while. And I loved programming, so that was a really good job, and I liked it a lot. But then around 2009, the iPhone started getting really big, and I saw a lot of developers were having success making games. So I thought, I'll give it a try. I made this little game called Skyward. It's an anagram word game and sold like a handful of copies. But it was kind of a learning experience to kind of learn what it took to get an app onto an iPhone. So then I kind of took what I learned from that, and I made it, actually I ported this I made this a long time ago in Silverlight. It's like a bridge building game where it kind of simulates your bridge with kind of realistic physics, and to see how well it does against stress. And so I released that on the iPhone too. It didn't really do very well either, but it did better than Skyward. And then I thought, I'm going to take this more serious. I'm going to go down to part-time at Boeing, and they had this rule at Boeing to where you had to work more than 32 hours a week to maintain full-time benefits. So I worked 32.1 hours per week to maintain those benefits, and I really I put a lot of effort into this game. And this is called, really it's not a game, it's more of like a art application where you can sculpt islands. And when I released this, it just was a total flatline in sales. It was just, my marketing plan back then was, when I released the game, I click publish, and then I just watch it fall down the newest release list, and nothing happened, of course. So it was just a giant flop, and it was really discouraging. I was like, just like, should I keep doing this? This is just kind of wasting my time, kind of questioning my decisions. And then around that time, BridgeBasher kind of started picking up steam again. I'm not really sure why, but and then a few months later, this website called freeapaday.com was really big back in like 2010. 2011, and they asked if I would want to do a promotion with them. And what you do is you put your game free for a day, and they promote it on their website. And then you switch it back to paid, and you get kind of a surge in sales. You get a bunch of players while it's free, and you get like a surge at the end. And so I did that, and I got the surge in sales when it was switched back to paid. But what was much more valuable was I got all these new players. It got downloaded like 1 million times when it was free. So that was a huge part of getting started. That was kind of my break. And so with all these new players, I was already working on a sequel to BridgeBasher at this time because it was a more popular game, and I was just going to add more levels and add more, make it more polished. And so now that I have these new players, I released this game and did an email blast. I had like 35,000 emails from that free promotion, and then because when I released BridgeBasher, I made an update before it went free that had a little pop-up in it that just said, "Hey, do you like my game? If you do, do you want to sign up for my mailing list?" And a lot of people did. So that was a huge part in getting ready for this next game. So I did an email blast, and then also put an update in BridgeBasher that it said, "Hey, I released a new game. Would you want to check it out?" And when they click OK, they go straight to the product page. They can buy it right there. And so when SimplePhysics was released, it did number 7 in the iOS App Store, and it was by far the best launch. It was way better than I expected. And that gave me enough money to go down to 3 days a week at Boeing. And then I timed, I started working on my next game, Dummy Defense, and I quit in 2012 when this game came out. I quit on April 3rd, 2012. It's important to pick a date that you can remember. So 4 times 3 is 12. So I remember April 3rd. This game didn't do nearly as well as SimplePhysics. And it peaked at like 40 or 50 on the charts and quickly dropped off. So it didn't make as much money. It made enough money to keep going, but it was definitely not as successful. And then I kind of got lost for a little while. I forgot what my next slide was. Had to cheat a little bit. So I didn't really know what to do. I got kind of lost for a while, what to work on next. And then one night I had some friends over, and they were showing me this game they started playing recently. And it was called Kerbal Space Program, and we stayed up till like 4 in the morning playing this game. It was just amazing. I landed on Moon, and it was the best like gaming experience that I can remember since I was a kid. So it was like, this is exactly what I need to do. So I checked the App Store, and there was no realistic space sims on iOS or Google Play. So I started immediately, and I wrote Simple Rockets in 2013, and using the same kind of approach where you keep your own mailing list with the in-game pop-ups, and you also, when you release a new game, you do the notification to let them know. And this one hit number 2 on iOS, it hit number 2 on Google Play. And so that was a really great launch. And around this time, my friend at Boeing, which I've known for a long time, a lot longer. Actually, we've known each other since like kindergarten. We worked on the same team at Boeing for a long time. But he kind of decided he wanted to change the pace. He liked what I was doing, so he quit, and we worked on Simple Planes in 2014 in my basement. And it was a big learning curve because we wanted to do Simple Planes in 3D, so we were learning Unity at the same time. But it was a great learning experience, and it was very unpolished when we released it in December of that year, but it still did well. It hit number 2 on the iOS App Store, so it was a good launch. And then we talked our friend into quitting his job and joining us too. So now that we had a couple of good game launches, and so now he was a programmer also. So now we're 3 programmers, and our games look terrible. So we got an artist. He was actually a player that was on. We have a website, SimplePlanes.com, that you build your own airplanes, you upload them. people can check him out, comments, upvote, whatever. And he was a really good player, and he had really nicely designed airplanes. And we found out he lived in St. Louis, and he had a really awesome portfolio, so we ended up hiring him. And so all of 2000, let's see where we had, that was, so 2015, we worked on Simple Planes all year, we got it ready for Steam, and then we launched in December 2015. And it was a really good launch. I'm a big fan of Steam. And so we kind of spent all of 2016 just updating Simple Planes, and I probably spent way too long doing updates, but it was a lot of fun. It was great to see the game grow and get new players, and so now we've started Simple Rockets 2, and our plan is to kind of take what we had learned from Simple Planes and apply that to Simple Rockets. And so that's kind of where we're at now, and this is the company. I'm the owner. It's an LLC. I'm the owner of the company. We have 2 employees. Kevin is the artist, and William is actually an intern from the org. And so they're both paid hourly, and then Philip and Nathan are actually contractors. We have a revenue share agreement between us, and this is the glamorous headquarters where we work at. It's a 2-bedroom apartment, and like I said, we were working in my basement for a long time, but this got a little cramped down there with all of us, and I have 3 small children, and it's just impossible, or it's very difficult to work with 3 small kids, and summer was quickly approaching, so we had to all be home from school. So we sprung for the apartment, and it's a lot cheaper than doing office space. If we went office space, we'd be paying probably twice as much per month for about the same square footage. So this has the benefit of having a full kitchen, full bath, and we don't have like customers coming to our door, things like that. So it's just a great workspace for us. And then we came up with this point system because it's very difficult to figure out how to split revenue between myself, Nathan, and Philip. So the fairest thing we could come up with was every hour you work, you get so many points. And the company has this total points, and you take all the points you've accumulated, divide it by the total, get your percentage. So like in this example, which we all earn a different number of points per hour, but we're saying we all work 1 hour, 1 point. If I had accumulated 42, the total company is 127, so I'd have a 33% revenue share. We could recalculate this every month, and it's worked well for us. And so this is how we typically work every month, and we get payments from all the different app stores. They all come into a checking account that I've created, and I go through and pay all the expenses. And then at the end of the month, I figure out how much profit we had made, and then I write checks directly to Philip and Nathan for their part of the revenue share. And then we use a service called Gusto. I just started using that for the employees, and it's really, it really has simplified things. It does payroll, so you just type in how many hours they've worked, and it calculates withholding and pays the employees direct deposit, and it's really a great service. I highly recommend it if you guys are looking for anything like that. And for our sales breakdown, we started on mobile. Well, I started on mobile, so we saw a big chunk of money coming from them. And Steam is our #1 platform right now. Apple is our next biggest. And Humble is kind of, it's actually not Humble Bundle, it's actually Humble Store, but it's kind of like, why bother? It's less than 1%, but there's huge potential with Humble, with the Humble Bundle and the Humble Store, or Humble Monthly. If you can get one of those contracts, get one of those deals, it could be a pretty good source of revenue. So one question we've struggled with in the past is, when you're making a game, you're going to do free or paid. And if you look on the mobile app store, the freemium games dominate the top paid or the top grossing. So like Minecraft is a good example. It's #1 top paid, like almost all the time. But if you go to top grossing, it's number 59. But I really don't like the freemium style. I don't like to have to think about how to integrate ads and in-app purchases. So we've stuck to paid, and I think it's making a comeback because Apple has this new section. It's like they forgot, like they've been doing free for so long, it's making so much money, they forgot what a paid game was. So they have the section pay once and play, like it's something new. It's been there the whole time. So getting new players is obviously really hard to do when you're making a game, and we've tried a lot of different approaches. Social media has been a big fail for us. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're not really getting anything from these platforms because they really want you to pay to advertise on them. Reddit is a big hit or miss. We've had some big hits on Reddit. We've made the front page before with the trailer for Simple Planes, but most of the time we just get a miss, and it's certainly nothing you can rely on. We've also had horrible press coverage. because we release really unpolished games. We keep working on them, we make them fun. By the end, I think they're pretty good, but the press isn't going to go back and say and review your game again. So it's been pretty much no help for us as far as getting new players. So I think one of the most important things you can do for marketing is really spend a lot of time and make a great trailer for your game, because it's used in like it's used in so many different ways. When you're sending out emails, you need to use your trailer. When you're contacting anybody about your game, you want to use your trailer. So we spend about a week on it, and we do it ourselves, but we do outsource some pieces of it. Like for the most recent trailers we've done, we found a really great voice actor guy in Fiverr. And Fiverr is a great resource for outsourcing little pieces. And YouTubers and streamers were hugely helpful when we launched Simple Planes. And I wrote like 600 YouTubers like manually, because we didn't have any lists. So I would like go to YouTube and I would go to any game that was like ours, like Kerbal Space Program or The Siege, and find all the great videos, and find a channel, find their email address, and write them directly with a unique Steam key. And I built up like a list of 600 YouTubers. So it'll be a lot easier next time, but it was a lot of labor that first time. And there's a really great video out there by Total Biscuit where he talks about the best way to get your game featured on a YouTube channel. I highly recommend you guys check it out. He has like just a really simple kind of template almost that people have used that he really likes. Also, Facebook ads has been, and while Facebook itself, like the pages, does not work for us, Facebook ads has been really helpful on the mobile side. There's no Facebook SDK for Steam, as far as I know, so for PC. But if you're making like a Unity game for mobile, there's a Facebook SDK you can integrate into your game, and that communicates with Facebook ads. You can track how many installs you're getting based on that advertisement. So you can track how much you're paying for install. And so here we're paying, this is an actual screenshot from one of our campaigns, and we're paying $2.31 for an install here, and the game is $5, so we're paying, so after Apple takes their cut, that's 30%, we take about $3.50 from that, so we're still making over $1 per install, so that's a great way. We're able to get a lot of players through Facebook ads. And so once you have players and you want to release a new game, because we're paid, we're premium, we make our money mostly when we're launching new games, we have to have a way to reach those players. And the biggest driver by far has been in-game notifications. So whenever we have this web service that we wrote ourselves, and whenever a game launches, it checks with the web service to see if there's a notification ready that we've set up. And so when we launch a new game, we set up a notification for, hey, we have a new game. Do you want to check it out? And there's links directly to the App Store on the corresponding platform. So like, iOS game's going to show the ad, and this link is going to take them straight to the App Store, so we can get it. And also, that's great for your active players that are coming back into the game. But obviously, not everybody's doing that. If you have your inactive players that maybe played it, loved it a few months ago, or a year ago, a way to reach them was just the mailing list. So we use the in-app notifications for that too. Like, we'll just ask them if they've played the game 25 times. We figure they probably like it, so we show them just the pop-up saying, "Hey, do you want to sign up for a mailing list?" And that's how we've been growing it for several years now. And it's something that when you want to actually use your mailing list and write an email to people, you'd think the email would be easy and simple, but it gets really expensive when you get a sizable mailing list, and the price tag for this is, for an example, if you had 50,000 people you want to email per month, Campaign Monitor is $300 a month, which is just ludicrous for sending emails. So I did use them at first. The user interface is amazing. It's a great website, but it's just too expensive. So we went to SendGrid, and they were great for a while, and now they've restructured. Now they're trying to be more like Campaign Monitor. Their prices are raising, so we left them too, and now we're using kind of more of a do-it-yourself approach, the Amazon SES, Simple Email Service. And they're way cheaper. Amazon's always the cheapest, right? So, but it's more do-it-yourself. So we actually had to have our own server, because they don't do list management. Or Campaign Monitor, SendGrid, they will track all your opens, they'll track your clicks, and track all this stuff for you. But Amazon SES doesn't do any of that. So you've got to set up your own service for handling all that stuff. And there's a web app you can buy called Sendy. It's $60, but it's like a PHP app. You just install it on a server. It does all that for you. So maintaining positive reviews is really important for your games. And once again, we use in-game notifications to help get people reviewing our game. So we show, if somebody's played the game like 25 times, figure they like it, so we just show them the pop-up and say, hey, that says mailing list sign up, that's a copy-paste error. But so we show them the thing and say, hey, do you want to review our game? It's going to help us tremendously. And if they click yes, they go straight to the review page. There's no, just make it as easy as possible to get them to leave a positive review. And I've heard some people do more complicated things where, like, you say, do you like the game? Then if they say no, then they take them to a forum and they say, what do you not like about it? And they capture all the bad, this email, instead of letting people go leave a bad review, they just capture that in a forum that they can handle themselves. But if they click yes, then they go to the App Store. It's going to leave a good review. And the one last tip I have is this great website called User Voice. And you're going to get a lot of suggestions from people about what you can do with your game. And this is to let you kind of organize that, and players can vote on their favorite ideas, and you can sort by it. So it's a great resource. Like when you want to do an update, come back to User Voice, look at all your suggestions, sort them by highest voted, and you can get some great ideas. And there's a really cool feature here where if you do complete an idea, like this is multiplayer for Simple Plans, we actually had no plans on doing that. So, but you can say it's completed and leave a little note and then click save, and it emails all the people that had voted on that idea, which is a great way to just reach those people and kind of bring them back into your game and get them excited. So it's also a great way to, like, if somebody asks or suggests an idea, it's kind of, sometimes it's hard to say just no. So instead you just give them a link and say, here, go leave your idea here. And that's all I got. So any questions?
Cool. Yeah. So with the profit sharing model, how do you balance like marketing costs? Because obviously, like, if you just spend crazy amounts on marketing, there's no profits to be shared. But like, are you making that decision yourself? Are they involved in that?
Oh, we're all involved on those kind of decisions. Like Facebook ads, is a pretty big cost, and so we just take that out of the profits, and then we split with the, take that out of the total revenue, and we split the profits. So we haven't had a negative month yet, so we haven't had to deal with that. But we would just all take a loss.
So that was a ridiculous number of good suggestions. How do you choose what you're going to work on when it comes to, like, features or marketing, or like how do you prioritize your time around that stuff?
Pretty chaotically, honestly. I mean, just kind of, we just meet a lot and then talk about what we're going to work on. We're trying to do the Scrum, but it's not. We're struggling. That works really well later on, I guess, in their project. But figuring out, like, a lot of times I take on more of the marketing kind of stuff, and I try to keep Nathan and Philip just programming because they're great programmers. They get a lot done, and Kevin obviously he does the art stuff. He can do trailers now, which is nice. But yeah, it's just by talking through it, figuring out what people want to work on and what makes sense.
Yeah, actually, Wes probably the point. Like, that's a ridiculous amount of really good info.
Thanks.
And I don't have anything to write with, so I didn't think I read it that well. Like, will there be any way to get this in a nice, consumable way?
Like this, the slides. I can put I'll put the slides out on the game dev Facebook page or something.
Awesome.
I'll put a link out there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Talk to me about Scrum.
Great, yes, I for one found that very helpful. And next up we have Ben Triola and Dana Huth from Happy Badger Studio. And they recently released Smugglecraft on PS4. And they've released a lot of other games before that. So you'll come on up. There are 2 microphones.
We're going to use these, actually. Is it cool if we just talk to you guys? We'll pull our chairs up to the front.
So,
You don't hear back
so
there,
cool. We're going to do this a little differently. This is more of just like us sharing experiences with you guys. We don't have any slides. It's also going to be a lot more general. There's a lot. Yeah, get that. There you go. It's going to be less like specific, here's some game dev, trinkets that you can stuff in your bag and use later. We're just going to talk about like what is it like to run a business, what makes it difficult, and why is it rewarding? Because before you decide to get into this, you need to decide if you want to, because there's a lot that goes along with it. You know, there's a lot of fun stuff like, you know, working on games and talking about marketing and, you know, getting number 1 in the App Store, number 2 in the App Store. That's fucking awesome and really fun. But to get there's a lot of hard stuff you gotta do. So that's kind of what we're gonna talk about.
So you guys should know a little bit about us before we get into this. The past 2+ years of our lives have been really crazy. We've had our studio, which did client work, and our game studio, which we do our own games. And we've been developing a PlayStation game for the past 2 years. And in that time, we've also concepted, created, and opened a cat cafe. So basically, we've had no free time in the past 2 years. So if we look tired, we are.
Yeah, our talk might reflect the fact that we have been running on fumes for months.
It's been a rough time. So bear with us because we're tired. So our backgrounds, we never went to school for like business things. I went to school for interior design. I really love art and design in any capacity. Ben went to school for animation and interactive media. So we had skill sets and we just kind of learned the business stuff along the way, which you can do, but it's definitely better to learn that stuff before you do business. So our business models are really different from each other. We started in service business like Matt did, and I guess like you guys did too, where you work for hire and you work for hire cheap, and then you work for hire more expensively until you can finally afford to work on your own stuff. It takes time, but just be patient and you'll get there.
I think another important fact is that we've known each other for a really long time. And we'll get into partnerships a little bit later on, but that's something that relationships are crucial to anything you do in business, because unless you're so actually I'm going to talk about just kind of frame this types of businesses. That's one thing that we should kind of go over. Like some of you guys might be thinking about starting a business, or maybe you have already started a business, and obviously there's different sort of scales, right? Like, you know, there's big businesses like this is a big business, and this not even that big. Like there's huge corporations, right? There's thousands and thousands of people. You're probably not going to start one of those, so let's leave those out of the mix. You're probably thinking about either starting a sole proprietorship, which is just you, or a partnership, which is you and one other person, or a small business, which is what we have. And a small business is anything from 3 employees, like 3 people, to I think like 1,000 people. I think the general consensus, like anything under $7 million in revenue is a small business, right? So you're probably going to be a small business, if not a sole proprietorship. But just to frame this, we're talking about small business. We have our studio employs ourselves and 3 other people. Our cafe employs about 13 people. So this is the context in which we're speaking. It's not going to apply to everything. You might be thinking of just going at it on your own, and that's awesome. And you're going to have slightly different challenges and slightly different expectations. So just keep that in mind. As Rami says, all advice is bad advice. So just keep in mind, this is our experience and our perspective.
And it's just stuff that we've learned along the way, so take it with a grain of salt.
So we're basically going to break this into 2 sections. We're going to talk about what's been hard with running a business and maintaining a business.
That's a real big list.
That's going to be the bulk of it. We're going to really bring it down here, guys. And then the other half is, why is it rewarding? So why do we keep doing this if it's so hard? So yeah, let's jump right into the hard stuff. First of all, employees. If you're going to do anything besides the sole proprietorship or the partnership, if you're going to bring employees in, it completely changes the game. Are you comfortable with leading? Do you mind confrontation? Because these are the things you're going to have to do on a daily basis.
Well, you don't have confrontations on a
well,
daily basis.
Hopefully not. But you're going to have to deal with employees. Yeah. You're going to have to manage people. And suddenly, you're not just a programmer anymore. You're not just an artist. Now you're a manager. And you get to do a little bit less of the fun stuff on a daily basis because you have to worry about what is everyone else doing. You have to take the time to manage them and make sure that they have stuff on their plates to do. And then there's also a huge amount of pressure that comes with having employees because you have to make sure they get paid. That becomes your first and foremost responsibility, is making sure that they have a paycheck at the end of the week. And that's a lot of pressure. If you're not ready for that, that can be extremely anxiety inducing. So that's something to keep in mind.
If you really just want to keep working on your skill, whether it's art or programming, but you want to grow your company, you should bring in someone that is more of a manager type that can take the admin things and really help to organize the studio so you can keep doing what you love.
Yeah, I mean, case in point, so like with the studio, we're small. Dana and I basically act as managers. We have weekly meetings, we talk about who's doing what, we delegate tasks, we manage that studio. With a cafe, we don't want to be that involved. We can't. We have too much stuff going on with the studio.
Well,
so
like Matt said, like you want to set it up to run without you, and that's exactly what we did with the cafe, because we did not do our studio like that at all. If we aren't involved in the studio, it doesn't move forward. So with the cafe, first thing we did was find a person that was really trustworthy as a manager, got her trained and ready to go, and now she checks in with us a couple times a week, and it runs without us. Okay, so partners, that is a really challenging, could be a really challenging aspect. This is unusual that this works so well, but we've known each other for 10 plus years before we started to work together. He's my favorite person in the world, so I can be totally honest with him. Not everybody has that type of relationship. We have ended 100% of the partnerships that we have been in besides this. So we started with Partners for the Cat Cafe, and we really wanted it to work, and things happen, people don't pull their weight, you have to make tough decisions, and it doesn't always work out. So just think about that before you agree lightly to go into business with someone. Their work ethic might be really different than yours. If you have hustle, like we work all the time, like we move quickly through life, and not everybody does that, and that's totally fine, but you need to be like on the same page with people, and if you're not, it's probably not gonna work out. So you need to have that stuff like organized up front. Transparency is super important. So like if you're having an issue with the way that someone is working, it's important to just come out with it and not harbor bad feelings, because then that just grows. And that's what happened with our cafe. It was just, we didn't know the people super well, and luckily we cut ties before it got too deep. But a legal breakup is really hard, and it was really costly. So be choosy.
Again, transparency is like the number one. Are you okay with confrontation? Because when you are running a business, you don't have time to worry about how this is going to make you feel, how it's going to make them feel. You need to talk about stuff. If you're having an issue with the way they're doing something, you have to talk about it, and you have to be okay talking about that stuff and being critical of each other. Otherwise, it's not going to move forward, and it's not going to work.
Yeah. I think a lot of times people are afraid to hurt each other's feelings, which is important. You don't want to be mean with each other, but honesty is different than just being a jerk. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of you guys know Carol Mertz. She was a partner of ours for 5-6 years.
Yeah, and that was an amicable, like, it was best for everyone. We went shopping after she decided to leave. Like, it was the easiest partner breakup.
And that's because we had always been transparent with each other. We'd always talked about how we were feeling. So I think it's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, especially like young people that are really excited to start a business, is they'll grab their closest friend out of college and say, let's do this. And sometimes that works, but a lot of times you guys have very different ideas about the goals that you have and the amount of work you want to put into something. This might be your sole passion, you put everything into it, and if that friend doesn't put the same amount of effort into it, you're going to feel burned at the end of the day.
You have to kind of weigh, is it worth risking the friendship for the business? So.
Another hard thing that we did not expect going into business, we started rampant, a lot like Raithel started, very small, doing just any kind of contract stuff we could do. It was just the three of us, me, Dana, and Carol. We were working some part-time jobs to make ends meet for a while.
I think our first project was like $300.
Yeah.
And we were photoshopping the backgrounds out of pictures of shoes so that they were just transparent backgrounds. And we made $300, and it was really exciting.
But then what happens is, you're working really hard, and eventually you start to make profit, and the tax man cometh. Taxes are incredibly difficult when you're running a business, and like nobody tells you that, right? Like no one's like, oh, here's your business license, and by the way, expect to pay double taxes. There's a thing called self-employment tax, and depending on, you should talk to your lawyers and your tax accountants. Depending on your
you should also get those things. Those are really important.
Depending on your business structure, expect to pay self-employment tax, which is an additional 15% on top of your federal and state taxes. So you're effectively almost doubling your tax rate. And if you're not expecting that, that can hit hard, especially if you had a good year. And the thing of it is, being frugal, smart business people, we always reinvested a lot of our money into our business, to grow it and make it better. That doesn't matter. There are write-offs, sure, but at the end of the day, whatever the business makes, that's what you get taxed on, whether or not you take it home. So keep that in mind. Plan ahead, set money aside, pay your quarterly estimates. There's all this stuff that you're going to want to do, and you're going to want to talk to a tax accountant before you get into that part.
Yeah.
Before you
cry your
before
eyes
you
out
start.
when the tax man tells you how much you owe.
The first the first year we made little money. The next 3 years we pretty much cried every time we went to our tax accountant because we were growing rapidly, which was great, but it meant we were paying more and more taxes each year.
So basically we ended up at like poverty level after the taxes were taken away. That was fun. So another thing to think about, this is important whether you're using like a home office or you get a space with people. Somebody has to do the admin work and the grocery shopping and the cleaning of the bathrooms. That's something that you don't really think about. Probably going to be you, and it's not fun, but somebody's got to do it. I think when we worked from home for the first 2.5 years, 3 years, and we had a partner, and once we got an intern, that was when I was like, I'm not cleaning the bathroom anymore. Like, this is my bathroom in my house. I'm buying this toilet paper. We need an office. So there's a lot of stuff like that. You could get an intern to do that. Kind of rude. It's also another person to manage. So
yeah, I think everyone thinks of interns as like, oh yeah, we'll get an intern, it'll be free work, they'll get us coffee and stuff. That's just it's basically another employee. You're not paying them, but you have to manage them. And if they come in grumpy, it affects the atmosphere of the entire office.
You don't want to give them crappy work to do either.
We've always been incredibly selective, both with employees and interns. Like, it has to be a culture fit. It has to feel good first, and then they have to have the skills, and then we'll backfill anything else.
I really only had 2 interns.
Yeah, 2 that were good. There might have been more, but I don't remember them. So we've talked about being a manager, doing admin work. Basically, you hear this a lot. You have to wear a lot of hats. But it basically means that you're going to end up having to do stuff that's not in your wheelhouse. You probably have a certain skill set or a couple skill sets that you're really good at. And like maybe you wanted to start your company because you're a programmer and you're like, I can do the hard part of making games, or the programming, and then I'll hire an artist, and etc. But there's always going to be stuff if you're running a business that's not in your wheelhouse. For us, it's accounting. We suck at accounting, but we're not numbers people. We're numbers people enough that we can look at some spreadsheets and some charts and be like, we're doing good, we're doing bad, we need to change stuff. But when it comes to bookkeeping, it's the worst. We hate it. If you're making enough money, you can hire someone to do the stuff you're not good at. But in the beginning, expect you're going to have to do that stuff. And I recommend there's a book called The E-Myth. I actually don't really like it very much. The author's kind of stuck up, but it has some good points. And I think it's worth reading like the first 3 chapters just to get. Most people start a business. He breaks people into technicians, managers, and entrepreneurs. Most of us are starting a business because we're a technician. We really like doing something, right? You're a technician, you're a programmer, you're an artist. You like using your tools and making stuff. And that's, you're like, I'm good at this thing. I want to start a business doing that thing. The problem is a business requires not only a technician, but it requires a manager to tell a technician what to do and how much of to do. And if we need to sell more, if we need to hire less, whatever we need to do, the manager has to make those decisions, those key business decisions. And then the entrepreneur is the third one. And some people start businesses because they're an entrepreneur. I'd say that's where I fall into. I'm less of a technician and more of an entrepreneur. I have ideas. So you might be an idea person, and you have all these ideas all the time. You're like, I've got this idea for this. It could be $1 million app. That's great too. But again, if you're an idea person, you need that manager to wrangle you in. And you also need a technician with the skills to make that idea into something that you can actually sell. So just keep in mind that you have to either play all 3 of those roles or have all 3 of those roles on your team in order to have a successful business.
So continuing down our list of what's hard, work-life balance is something that you probably have if you have a clock-in, clock-out type of job. You do your job, you clock out, you go home, you have your life outside of work. If you're starting your own business, that wall is gone. So hopefully you're choosing something that you love to do, because that's going to be your life all the time. There's not really like a clock out. If there's an emergency, you have to deal with it regardless of if you're on vacation or not. So yeah, and if business is bad or there's something heavy going on at work, that does not leave you when you go home. That stays with you while you sleep, when you wake up in the morning. It's with you all the time, and it's sometimes a lot to handle. So we're just laying it out there.
Yeah, if you have a bad month, or if there's an employee behavior situation that you have to deal with, that's going to be a pit in your stomach until it's passed. And I mean, the other thing too is, I think, you know, a lot of studios are trying to get away from crunch, and we try to avoid crunch as much as possible. But there's going to come a time where there is some crunch, and twice now I've slept at the office, like not even slept, but stayed at the office for more than 24 hours. Like that kind of stuff happens. Probably not going to happen in your clock in, clock out job.
Something else to keep in mind when you're working with a small team and you're working maybe all remotely, if you have different schedules, that can really throw a wrench in things. We like to have open schedules, like we work well in the morning, our programmer sleeps most of the day and works through the night. So if there's something that you need to collaborate on, that makes it really challenging. So you just have to figure out good times to work together. Otherwise, it slows down the whole process because you're waiting on this thing and then you have to wait for a whole day to pass to get this thing to them.
And being, you know, if you're the manager or you're the owner of the business, you're the catch-all. So, you know, like this happened just last weekend. Our programmer's sleep schedule is super messed up from the launch of SimplePhysics. I mean, we stayed up for like 30 hours straight doing patches and stuff. It was nuts. So now, like, he wakes up at, you know, 5 o'clock in the evening and works until 4 in the morning. That was a problem last Friday because he had created an update for SimplePhysics, and we tested it all day Friday and found a bug that he wasn't able to fix until Friday at like 11 p.m. So I had to spend my Friday night up at midnight, like, pushing stuff into Steam. That's not super great, but it falls on us.
Yep.
So the last bit on what's hard, and probably what is the hardest, is the burden of risk and financial crunch. So this applies to whether you're doing stuff for hire or you're doing your own IP. You know, when we started Rampant Interactive, Happy Badgers, we were doing all this client work, and it's always, you know, feast or famine. Like, you don't know where the next project's going to come from. You don't know if you know when the next paycheck's coming or when you'll have one, and that can be really hard. It can be very anxiety-inducing to not know. It's just the fear of the unknown. You know, you set out with maybe the 3 months of buffer, and you hope that you can get enough work to carry you through. And if you work hard, hopefully you will. But it's just not knowing where it's coming from that can be really hard for some people. And then if you do decide to work on your own IP, there's the burden of financial risk. So somebody has to put in the money and the time to make that product a reality. And for us, you know, we put in 2.5 years into SimplePhysics, and that's both our time and it's also our money that we, you know, paid employees. And the more you invest in a product, the more pressure you feel for that product to succeed. And there's a good chance it won't. And for SimplePhysics, so far, it has not come near what we need to make back our investment. And that's just the reality. Is there are going to be times where you might fail, and you have to be okay with that. You have to go into knowing that it's a strong possibility, and you have to be ready to accept that and to keep moving. We have to actually lay off 2 of our employees at the end of the month because SimplePhysics sales did not meet expectations. That's a really hard thing to do. So you have to know that going in, that you could be faced with some really hard decisions.
Yeah, and that was a risk that we knew we were up against. We basically worked for 5 or 6 years building Rampant to the point where we had enough money to make this game, or enough money, at least we thought. So we had some really good years. We put in a lot of time thinking that it was going to pay off. It might still. We still have other platforms to launch on. As of right now, super in the hole with that project. We're going to learn a lot from failing so hard. But yeah, it's really hard because you become a family, and then having to tell people you can't pay them anymore really sucks. So think about the risks that you're taking.
We're going to move on to the positive stuff now.
Yay! If everyone is like depressed, I'm sorry, because we are too. Okay, so why do we do this? Because obviously there's a lot of negatives that we just threw at everyone. I don't know if you guys know us super well or not. I know a few people in here, but we do it because we like the freedom that owning our own businesses allows us. He's my favorite person in the world. I want to work with him pretty much all the time, so we're just going to do our own thing, and that's pretty much the start of it. If we can make things that make people happy, that's even better. So the small amount of people that have SimplePhysics, they really like it, and that's great. We want more people to download it, and we'll get there. And then with the cafe too, opening the cafe was incredibly difficult. We were working 40-hour work weeks upstairs. Our studio is above our cafe, so we would be working upstairs on Smokeacraft. We would eat some food and then head downstairs and tape drywall and sand walls and polyurethane benches, and we worked like all the time for months until that cafe was launched. But now we get 500 people through there a weekend, and they are all posting their photos. They love it. We found homes for almost 40 cats in a few months. So like it's worth it if you have something that you want to do. It's going to be hard, but if you really want to do it, just do it.
We're the kind of people that get really bored doing the same thing over and over again, and that's going to be the entrepreneur role. And so if that's you, if you have moved from desk job to desk job to desk job, it's meant because you want to do something on your own, and there's nothing like being the one that gets to decide like this is what we're going to do next. I mean, here we were running this software studio for 6 years, and we go to Thailand and we spend one day to Cat Cafe, and literally that day we're just like, let's do this, and that's all it took. We can make that decision. So it's an enormously satisfying feeling to have that power over your own destiny. So yeah, it's very rewarding.
Plus, you get to bring your dog to work, which is pretty cool because you can't do that everywhere. Also, like if you create something that you have talented friends and people that you want to employ, if you make something that you can share with them, that's a pretty awesome feeling.
Employing people, as much as I said about how stressful it is and how much time it takes and how much pressure there is behind employing people, it is one of the greatest things that you can do. It feels so good, and it's so rewarding to give people, and these people become your family, and to give them a job doing something they love. These two guys that we have to let go, it's super sad, but they got to do their dream job for the last year, two years.
We found TJ on Twitter when he was like 18 or 19. We randomly met him at the Science Center, immediately asked him to come into our studio because we saw how talented he was. We were not hiring. We've never ever been hiring. We just find people that have skills that are great and that we work with well, personality-wise. So yeah, we found TJ from Twitter. Our first employee, Joey, we found him at an anime convention. He was dressed as some character that we didn't know because we don't know anime things. And he just told us that he programmed, and so we let him program this, like, he made a ramen timer. It's like the silliest app you could make, and he was really fun to work with, so we hired him.
Being able to, again, just be your own boss, make your own schedule. A couple of things that we like to do. We like to take extended trips. So like we'll work remote for like 6 weeks. And that's actually, we were in Thailand when we went to the Cat Cafe, and we were there for 6 weeks visiting my dad. That's really hard to do in a conventional job. And so having your own company, especially if it's small, working remote is super easy, and it provides you a lot of freedom. Yeah. Good. We're about at the end. Write-offs is the last thing. Write-offs are great. I can't tell you what to write off. That's up to you and your tax accountant.
Yeah, talk
but
it over with your accountant.
There's a lot. I mean, let's just say there's a lot of benefits that we get from being a business. The business pays for things like our cell phone, our internet, stuff like that. So you get paid a certain amount, and then on top of that, you sort of have these extra benefits that go along with being a business. It's just a perk. It's nice to have.
Yeah. Before we do questions, I have probably the biggest tip for anybody that has a goal that you want to achieve. Lists are like the huge thing for us. When we started the Cat Cafe, or had the idea for the Cat Cafe, we obviously didn't know how to run that type of business. We'd never done it before, and we didn't really know everything that we were in for, but we knew that if we did a handful of things every day to move us forward, it would eventually get there. So just get through those little things that you can do every day to progress your project, and it will eventually get finished.
Yeah, do something every day that moves your project forward, and I call it putting the ball in motion. Start doing things. They can start little and get big, but start doing things that create a point of no return. So it becomes like a snowball rolling down the hill to where at a certain point you can't stop it anymore. So for us, it was first we concepted some stuff, and then we launched the brand. Like it was a big deal. We put it out on Twitter. A Cat Cafe is coming to St. Louis. Like that's kind of a big deal. It's hard. We could back out of that, but it would look kind of bad. And then the next step was like we started construction, and at that point, it was like there's no going back. Like we're gonna build this space out. We can't not fill it with employees
In a space
and
that
cats.
you build for cats, like specifically for cats, you can't really repurpose it, so you kind of have to make it what it was.
So, and I think that can apply to, a game project or a game company too. Like, you could start with a game jam concept, polish it into a really nice prototype, get a booth at PAX. Holy shit, now you're at PAX. Now you're a real game. That's how it works. You start taking steps until it becomes something that you can't turn away from. It just sort of forces you into doing the thing that you wanted to do to begin with.
Okay, we're done talking. Questions?
I'm going to follow up on what you just said. That's why we do the demos before this, is because if you have that demo coming up, then you're going to work on it, polish it, try to get better. And that's why we do a lot of our demos, is to try to give people a milestone to try to hit, just to motivate them to get things further.
Yeah, deadlines are super helpful. I mean, honestly, like, I don't think PAXs are that beneficial in terms of marketing unless you can talk to some really good press. Beyond that, you meet a few hundred people, a few thousand people, like 1% will buy your game, but they're really good for that reason, that they create a deadline that it forces you to get certain features of your game done before PAX. And so it really pushes you along in your development cycle.
So follow up on that, because I just really like talking a lot. All right, thank you so much for your honesty and candor. Because of that honesty, I have to ask you guys, like, do you have any advice on giving people feedback and accepting feedback?
In like a game capacity, or just like as working with each other?
Is there a difference? And
Yes.
Okay.
So like conflict-wise, learning to talk to each other diplomatically and not emotionally is really important. I get really defensive about my art if people look at it before it's done and give me pointers, and that's something that we struggle with. So you just have to learn how to talk to people and just be honest and not pointed with the way that you speak, I guess. I don't know if you have to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, like, to learn people's styles. Like, through working together, I know now that, like, Dana doesn't like me to critique stuff until she's, like, ready for critique.
It was an issue. Like, he'd look over my shoulder and be like, well, why don't you do this? I'm like, I am just starting this.
But I think it's a good rule with anybody, is, like, ask them first, like, are you ready for critique? Or can we talk about this? Because they might not be at a place they're ready. There might still be a concept in their head, and so what you see on the screen is only half of their vision.
Yeah, unsolicited advice almost never is going to be taken well, but if you ask someone, hey, I have a suggestion, are you open to it? Then yes, like people have asked us, like, hey, we played the game, can we send you feedback? Most definitely yes, because we want it to be better.
I think, as my role as, I'm typically end up being like producer / manager for stuff. It can be tough because, one of your team might have done something that they think is really cool, but when I look at it, I'm like, this doesn't really fit the vision, or it's not really where I want it to go. But you still have to talk about it, because I'm not going to let something go out into the world just because I'm going to save someone's feelings.
It only gets more awkward the more you let that stuff slide and don't say anything. If you set that precedence of like, okay, we're going to talk about this because this isn't quite right, then it's not that big of a deal.
So I mean, I usually, like, it's just very frank and transparent. Like, I'll just say, I like your idea, I like where you're going with it, but here's my concern, and here's why I think it might not work. What are your thoughts? Like, is there a way that we could make it work, or do we need to just cut it and save it for later? Like, we just talk about the options. Any other questions?
Thanks for listening.
Okay, I'm gonna...
we'll stick around. Think about it.
Since you asked and no one put their hand up, I'll ask you a question. And then you can clap again. So how do you guys prioritize your time between two businesses?
Yeah, that's really hard. For a while, we were trying to do like this day and this day is this company, and this day and this day is this company, but that doesn't really work when the schedules kind of like overlap. Yeah, you did it, doesn't work.
Yeah, you really want it to work because it sounds so nice. It sounds so good in your head.
So we basically just have to like designate chunks of time rather than full days. So like I'll do Mow House stuff one morning, and then I'll switch over to Badger stuff for the rest of the day. And that's typically how we break down our days.
Yeah, but I think, like, even though a lot of times it does become management by chaos, that's just sometimes happens. But I think even if that's happening, if you stop for 2 seconds and say, okay, there's some Mount House shit I gotta deal with. I'm gonna spend the next hour dealing with Mount House stuff. After that hour, I'm switching back over. If you don't do that, you just get sucked into a vortex, and like before you know it, it's 4 o'clock and you haven't done anything with small craft all day. So it's just, if you just sort of preface like, okay, I'm about to spend some time on this, I'm setting it to this amount, it really helps.
And if y'all are cat people, we got some great cats right now. You should come snuggle them.
Also, if you like Future Racers, Small Craft is available on Steam and PS4.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right. Well, awesome. Thanks to everyone for coming, to all of our awesome presenters. Just so y'all know, for any of the new people out there, these events are put on by the St. Louis Game Dev Co-op. We have a website, stlgamedev.com, and an annual membership is only $20, which lets you get on our Slack group and access to any of our private events like our holiday party and other little perks like that. And in general, we hold a lot of events such as our monthly drink ups. The next one is actually this Thursday at Orbit Pinball Lounge coming up. Just a good way to socialize with other game devs in the area. Did you have any other news, Wes?
We'll be back here the first Monday of next month with a non-determined yet topic.
Yes. Riot has been kind enough to lend us this space tentatively on the first Monday of each month. So that's generally when we're going to be holding these monthly meetups. So we're still planning out the next event. If any of y'all have suggestions, talk to me or Wes or the new board members, which we'll be posting that soon, I believe. We're still working all the details out, but yeah, one other announcement is, just so everyone knows, is the Pixel Pop Festival, which is in August. It's August 5th and 6th, and that's an event that's getting bigger and bigger every year, put on locally, but with game developers from all over the world at this point, right, Mary?
Yeah.
We've got some people traveling in. So local game developers, people from further away, demoing games and talking about their experiences, panels and tutorials and that sort of thing. So that's coming up in August. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a good night.
I have a question for you guys that I didn't want to because I have Pulse Pizza, I kind of know what you want to do.